Hi everyone and welcome to episode 257 of Final Fantasy Union. I'm your host Daryl and I'm here with the lovely Lauren.
Hi everyone. That was quite an entrance. The lovely Lauren.
Luscious Lauren? What would you prefer?
Luba.
Luba. It's the Luba Lauren.
Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hello guys. How are you doing?
See, this is what happens when you get back-to-back podcast episodes.
Yeah.
Lauren goes just loopy.
Luba, luba.
Luba, luba.
We were just having a massive discussion about how Final Fantasy 14 needs babies.
No, well, the original premise was...
Don't tell them the original premise. Don't ruin magic.
What would convince Lauren to play 14? And the answer was if they had a parenting mechanic.
Could you imagine baby Lalafels? Baby Lalafels attacking the world. It would be beautiful.
And there we go. So if you're listening, anyone who plays 14 or is part of the development team, and you want Lauren to play the game, add a mechanic where she can have baby Lalafels that she can train up to conquer the world.
You can have minions, but they're just not the same. They're not the same.
You don't raise them.
Yeah, you don't raise them.
You don't give birth.
No. Oh, I don't. No, that's taking it too far. No, they just have to kind of appear, because I don't want to relive that mess. No, no thanks. No thanks.
No thanks.
No thanks. Not in a digital form. No, this is a safe space.
Do you want there still to be a gestation period?
No, because even that's weird.
Then they have in The Sims though.
They just have to. They just have to.
Wait, so in The Sims they
blossom.
have the woohoo and then they just appear.
They used to. You used to just kiss and then they would be like.
But now there's pregnancy, right?
It's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny how it used to happen. Is that you just kiss a lot and then all of a sudden it just asks you, "Do you want to have a baby? Yes or no?" Yes. Okay. Bassinet appears. You have a baby. Ta-da!
Just like real life.
Just like real life. But yeah, no. Anyways, so yeah, Final Fantasy.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Tokyo Game Show, which is actually still ongoing. We have delayed the episode slightly because I believe all of the Final Fantasy news is now out of the way as part of their ongoing 3-day broadcast schedule. We just concluded the first Soldier segment, and now they're doing a load of other stuff about Dragon Quest and the trading card game, which... I mean, Dragon Quest doesn't really apply to us because I don't think Dragon Quest X offline is coming to the West, which seems like a missed opportunity, really, because the original MMO was Japanese only.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, just cost-cutting. Can't be bothered to localize
it. Nah.
But we were discussing, though, how cool it would be, because like Final Fantasy XIV is like massively still in the ascendancy now, which is crazy considering it's been going for like 8 years. And with the Dragon Quest X came out only a year before A Realm Reborn, and I believe Dragon Quest X is still ongoing as a subscription-based MMO as well, with new expansions being released. It's obviously nowhere near as popular as 14, but I don't know how popular it is in Japan in relation to 14. But they are working on Dragon Quest X offline, so you don't have to have a subscription fee or anything. They've kind of tailored it to be a single-player game. And just how cool it would be if they did the same thing for 14, because so many people who are in the same position as Laura and I, where we can't commit to playing the online experience, just time-wise, I guess, it would make it so much more accessible. And based on how things are going, so many people would be interested in picking that up, I'm sure. That would be a massive million seller for Square.
Yeah, there is still that barrier for people to not want to have to play online, like even still. And like, I mean, also cost wise, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Like
I'm very curious to see how Dragon Quest X sells in comparison to a normal Dragon Quest experience. Because I think you would typically be expecting a Dragon Quest game in Japan to sell like 2, 3, maybe 4, even 5 million copies.
Yeah.
And if Dragon Quest X offline sells under 1 million, I think that would probably put Square Enix off doing something similar for 14. But it doesn't seem as though the Square side of the business and the Enix side of the business share anything or do anything similar. They're just
the weird cousins that we only see on the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken like throughout this year about how the Dragon Quest 35th anniversary it seems as though they did everything everyone wanted. They announced Dragon Quest X Offline. They announced Dragon Quest 12. They announced the Dragon Quest 2D HD remakes. Everyone seems to be just really excited about what's happening with Dragon Quest at the moment. Whereas Final Fantasy, I mean, the 35th anniversary is next year.
I love how they made a logo for it as well. Like the fact that it's like 35 and they're just like, it's really special. It's just like, but why didn't you do anything for the 30th? Why it's the 35th now special?
Well, they've done stuff every 5 years since the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
But most of those anniversary celebrations have been completely moot. Like nothing's really happened. I think the first one, let's just check this out actually.
Let's get another tea towel. Yay.
Yeah, they do a load of merchandise, but like gaming wise, it just doesn't really amount to anything. So the 20th anniversary, they did, like, this actually makes sense, right? They did the PSP anniversary versions of Final Fantasy 1 and 2, which like had all the enhanced graphics, extra dungeons, like loads of new content to them. They released the War of the Lions PSP version, which was super enhanced. They released the Final Fantasy IV remake. In Japan, they did Final Fantasy 12 International, and they released Dissidia. So like, you had 5 games that were kind of anniversary based. But the main thing was that they re-released Final Fantasy 1 and 2, very clearly anniversary based because it's the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy 1. And they released Dissidia, which is an anniversary game.
Yeah.
For the 25th anniversary, I don't think they did anything that was specific. They released Theatrhythm, which I guess is an anniversary game as well, in the same manner as Dissidia. But other than that, they released Final Fantasy Dimensions, which was nothing to do with the anniversary. Final Fantasy Eberl Brigade, which was nothing to do with the anniversary. They re-released Final Fantasy 7 on PC on Steam, nothing to do with the anniversary, and they did a PSP port of Final Fantasy 3, and they positioned these as all anniversary games. Like, none of them.
Everything's an anniversary game. Yeah.
And then the 30th anniversary, which obviously is the one that was most recent, they just shoved a load of stuff in there that was nothing to do with it. Like the Zodiac Age, Stormblood, Final Fantasy 15 DLC, Dissidia NT, which wasn't an anniversary game at all. Like, they did all collaborations in these mobile games. The only game that actually released that was part of the 30th anniversary was an Itadaki Street game. Which we didn't even get outside of Japan.
No.
It's just, it does get a bit frustrating as a fan. Obviously, like, you want to celebrate the franchise with them. So we're
like those people on TikTok where it's just like, then when the sky comes falling, then when it's sun to shine. Just like really sad in the corner. It's like, or that meme with the kid drowning, and then the one under the sea where it's just a skeleton and you're just kind of like, oh, we're forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, technically, Stranger of Paradise,
I think that's what I was going to say, is that definitely looks like they're trying to make
it's kind of a redone version of the original game.
They put the logo on it for the 35th anniversary.
And so that makes sense as an anniversary game. And they also did say at the end of the press conference that there are other games that have not been announced yet that will play a part in the anniversary.
But it is funny because it's just kind of like they thought of it one meeting, like, you know, this game could really... What anniversary do we got coming up? Okay, guys. 35th anniversary? Oh, you know what? Because we include so much other Final Fantasy crap in this game, why don't we just call it part of the 35th anniversary? That sounds amazing. Yeah. Woo. But we'll get on to the weirdness.
Today we're going to be talking about the Tokyo Game Show press conference and kind of the wider show. And then we're going to be talking specifically about Stranger of Paradise. Wait, is it Stranger of Paradise? Stranger in Paradise? I can never get it right.
Stranger of
Paradise,
yeah.
Yes. Stranger of Paradise. But first, though, we're going to do our Patreon shoutouts, and we're going to kick things off with Lewis James at LJ Composer,
Rachel Casterton at Drunken Vieira,
Barry Norton at Nortron0,
Zelda Clone at Apes Type Novels,
Darren Matthews at Doomster73,
Miles Ribbons,
Alex and Rachel Trowman at Akira Namejin,
Billy Jackson at _Billy Jackson,
Ryzen,
Thurin Bullen at Massacre23,
Sam Ennis,
Chris Willis,
Fayaz Bilal,
Chris Pope,
Freya Stella,
Jared Brilland,
Marco Lilu,
And Gregory.
Thank you all so much, guys.
Thank you all so much.
So yeah, the Tokyo Game Show, there was, I'd say, a decent amount of expectation going into this, even though Yoshida had said there will be no Final Fantasy 16. And they actually started the press conference off by saying there will be no Final Fantasy 16 in this because Yoshida said there will be no Final Fantasy 16. And I kind of appreciated that up front because it kind of softened expectations throughout the thing. There's not actually going to be a surprise. Don't get your hopes up. And like, you and I have been watching a lot of the Nier based press conferences and how silly they are. It seems because they had the guy who is the voice actor of I think he's Grimoire Weiss in Nier, but he's also the narrator of Voice of Cards, and he was the MC of the press conference. And there was it toes the line between being a bit silly but also serious, whereas the Western ones always just seem like they're trying to be super professional. And it's like the whole Microsoft conference, isn't it? Where they're like, world premiere. It's like no one cares about, like, just make it fun. Make it exciting. Make it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, well, it comes back to that thing that I've sort of felt is that, like, for some reason, Japan doesn't think that we get them. They think that they have to act differently to us. And maybe that's because of, like, how other companies present themselves, like Apple when Steve Jobs used to do it, or like Microsoft when they do their stuff. I mean, we saw it somewhat in one of the things that we were a part of, where this studio came out and did this presentation that was so tone deaf to what we were doing because it was so professional. It was so like, just, you know, look at all of these amazing games that we do and blah, 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 blah. And it's just kind of like, it was too intense for the audience that it was. And maybe because Japan, that's all they really see of us, of the successful people. They just think that that's what they have to be like with us. Yeah.
Because like, if you look at the Square Enix E3 press conference, there was no person. No, Matt Mercer did the voiceover, didn't he? But you didn't see Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
And there was no jokes.
Yeah.
It was just him reading a script that was 100% literal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the Japanese one, like, it obviously wasn't ad-libbing, I don't think. But like it was like there was some jokes thrown in there that he put in his personality, and like it just made it a bit more engaging. And you get a few laughs here and there, and like, you know, they made references, like, you know, the first game that really came as a surprise was a game called Dungeon Encounters, which is, I don't know how they name their games, like Dungeon Encounters. But it's a game that's been made by Hiroyuki Ito, and like, we've been talking so long about the fact that Ito is just non-existent.
We put him on milk bottles.
And they made reference to that in like the build-up, and then even when they had a video from Ito, and he was joking about the fact that he hasn't made a game for a long time, and he'd kind of forgotten how to make one, and like it's just endearing, like the way that they go about it. But yeah, Dungeon Encounters was revealed. I'm curious about it because it's I know that you didn't really... Did you like pay too much attention to that one?
Not too much, no.
It's like a maths-based dungeon crawler where you have encounters.
Good job, Daryl.
And it's like turn ATB structure, but it's very like no frills. So there's a very minimal art style. I don't think there's going to be much of a story.
It kind of looks like a crossword puzzle.
Yeah, that's how people have described it. It's it's kind of like a dungeon-based crossword puzzle. And it's like very kind of maths-based, problem-solving. And so it's only going to appeal to a certain type of person. Like, there's not going to be some massive overarching story. And I think they actually said that when it was in production, Ito said, I want to make this kind of game. It's going to be very simple. And the higher-ups were like, well, if it's going to be so simple, don't you want to layer over some stuff on top to like draw people in? Like, don't you want there to be like a protagonist and a story? And he was just like, no, not really.
No thanks.
No thanks. I just want it to be a simple game.
Yeah.
And
he wants to teach people about math.
Yeah, I mean, like, it probably didn't cost them that much to pull together. And they've got a couple of big names working on it. I'd imagine it's been pulled together by a team of like 10 to 15 people, with Ito kind of at the top, just kind of overseeing everything. And it's coming out in like 2 weeks, I think, actually, which is the big surprise. Square Enix announced a game they're releasing like 2 weeks after it was announced.
What's
some
even
kind
happening?
I don't know. It's crazy.
I do love seeing Ito again, though.
So I might check it out, and I might actually. The only game I've bought so far digitally is Streets of Rage 4, because I was strong-armed into doing such a thing.
Yep.
And
just so you know, it was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tempted, honestly, to check out Dungeon Encounters. Just because
you want to encounter some dungeons.
I want to support Ito, you know? Like, I want him to come back. I want him to do something meaningful.
Oh, you missed the
And the best way to get him back is to have this game sell 10 million copies.
So everybody from Final Fantasy Union, just buy Dungeon Encounters.
And Ito will come back.
Yeah, and Ito might come back. We might have him once more. But it's so cute as well, because you just sort of think like him in a meeting just being like, so guys, I want to do a game where it's like primarily math and it kind of looks like a crossword puzzle. Do you think that I could do that maybe? Yeah, sure, whatever. It's fine.
There was the big meme going around, kind of around this press conference, actually, where it's just the fans constantly saying that the creators need to make the games that they want to make.
Yeah.
And then the company's going like, you know what, we should listen to the fans. Let's just let the creators make the games they want to make.
Yeah.
The creator makes the game they want to make. They put it out into the world, and the fans like, what the hell is this? We told you to make the games that you wanted to make, but they should be the same games that we want you to make as well.
Although on that, and I think we'll get into this later, Strangers of Paradise, it's like it can be what the developers want. It just has to not be bad.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get onto it.
Yeah.
We'll get onto it.
Yeah.
The other interesting game that was not revealed but shown off was Voice of Cards. That's also coming out this month. So 2 games coming out this month that were released that were announced in the last like couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's the new game by Yoko Taro. He's working with the main developer of Brave Exvius randomly. I don't know how that works. But it's an offline game, not a mobile game, which I was quite surprised by as well. It's a very interesting one. I played the demo. So, very no frills again. There is one narrator, one voice actor for the whole game, from what I understand. So it's a man in both instances, but he will basically act as the game master, describing everything that's going on.
A bit like Bastion.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's very card based. So you move around a map that is based on cards. The cards flip over as you move towards them. All the NPCs are on cards. Like the battle system's all based around cards. It seems quite interesting. I think your question was like, I don't understand how a game like that can kind of draw you in with the story.
No, it's just that I'm not a massive fan of card games on like. Yeah, I'm just not a massive fan of card-related video games, because like I played Kingdom Hearts what was it? It wasn't Recoded, no. It was oh my god, they're all blending into one. Chain of Memories. The one that was on the PlayStation. And I just got so frustrated by being so resistant. And I don't know if that's because of how it was, like it looked like it should play like a Kingdom Hearts game where, you know, you had the freedom to move and it was an action RPG. But like every time I tried to move, it was just like, you have to use this card. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to.
Metal Gear Acid was a similar concept, but this is not that type of game.
Yeah.
So it's based around cards, but it's not like you have a deck and you've got to pull cards out of it and stuff. It's just a typical turn-based RPG. Except instead of getting like a menu where you go attack, whatever, you have cards instead that have the same commands. They just changed the visual representation of it.
I mean, the one thing I will commend him on is the fact that he's not using the Nier branding to help support this game, because I think that's kind of the issue that Square Enix always falls into when they make these types of new experiences. That's that they always kind of think, all right, well, let's paste the name that we're known for on here so that we can get sales.
I would say that it's
but then I feel like it's a detriment for me because I'm not really that interested.
Honestly, that seems more like a Gataze Nomura thing that they fall back on all the time. Because Square, like, I don't know, I think Matsuda had said a couple of years ago that they had finally got to the point where they just couldn't keep relying on their original IP or their old IPs to sustain the company anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've seen it, especially like as I'm pulling together the book, you know, there has been a severe drop in the number of games releasing in the past 3 years that have the name Final Fantasy associated to them. They've done re-releases of older games, fine, but if you're talking about original games, like up until the first Soldier comes out, that's going to be the first original Final Fantasy based game since the 7 remake. If we're excluding Intergrade, because that's just an international version.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's almost 2 years. Like Stranger of Paradise is going to come out almost 2 years after the 7 remake. That's like the longest period of time Square Enix has gone releasing 2 original Final Fantasy games since the gap between 6 and 7. It's madness.
Yeah.
They typically have been releasing around like 10 Final Fantasy based games a year, I think, like on a pretty consistent basis.
Yeah.
Because there have been so many mobile games, spin-offs, whatever, but they've just for whatever reason, just cut them away and said, look, we've got to let this franchise breathe a little bit because they've got big games coming out, and the smaller games have kind of devalued it a bit because, as you said, like there've been so many of them. They've not really been related to Final Fantasy other than just kind of like lending assets, borrowing characters or whatever. They could have easily been their own standalone games. And if you look at like the lineup of TGS, Dungeon Encounters, Voice of Cards, there was Triangle Strategy, you've got Forspoken. That's 4 games that are coming out in the next 4 months, or like next 6 months, sorry, that have nothing to do with Final Fantasy or any of their existing IPs whatsoever. And I think they've suddenly started to realize that they need this like new blood coming in, because Octopath was a new IP that's now spawned its own things. You've got the mobile game that's come out of that, and then you've got, I think there's a new Octopath game in development already. Nier Automata has basically revitalized that franchise from scratch.
Yeah.
And now Nier is its own viable IP. The only way they're going to like reduce this reliance on Final Fantasy and allow it so that they don't have to keep producing all these games all the time to make it viable for them to earn money as a company is to start diversifying their portfolio. And I'm really glad that it's starting to happen now, because it does give us other things to start getting excited about. Like there's every chance that Forspoken could sell like 5 million plus copies. That's enough to make that a legitimate thing. Like Kingdom Hearts has barely ever sold that many, and that's huge in terms of like the portfolio of Square.
Yeah.
If Forspoken can be its own thing, great. And like, you know, if these small games like Voice of Cards, if they do well enough, then they can start building supporting properties around these things, and they can start taking more risks and making more games like that that maybe are little experiments here and there, and maybe that will give Square Enix the confidence to make some other big budget games. Like Babylon's Fall is another one that should be coming out in the next 6 months as well. Like it's like they've kind of turned a corner, and they're going back to how they were maybe 20 years ago, or maybe longer than that, like 20, 25 years ago, where they didn't have to keep churning out Final Fantasy based games to generate them money. And people are starting to get a bit more confidence, I guess, in the non-Final Fantasy, the non-Kingdom Hearts, the non-Dragon Quest games that they're releasing.
My only issue is that it's just, I mean, nobody really fully knows other than Square Enix themselves, like what the structure is like for staff, because it does also feel like they are spread super thin. Like, I can't imagine how many people they have on each project.
Well, I guess, so now they have the 4 divisions, and within those divisions, they have subdivisions. But I think a lot of the time, like, there's not too many games that are being developed primarily at Square.
Yeah.
So you have, like, the 7 Remake is the big one. Luminous Productions is being developed primarily at Square. But a lot of the other games are being overseen by a handful of people at Square, and then primarily worked on by third parties. So Voice of Cards, typical example, overseen by like Yoko Taro, Yosuke Saito, Kiichi Okabe. I think there's a couple of other people from Square, but the majority of the work is being done by Alim.
But then I do worry about, like, if with that, as well as the room for like the level of quality that comes from the games as well. Because, like, even though Babylon's Fall is like underway, like, it's sounding like it may be struggling a little bit. Like, it just, it's hard. And like with Strangers of Paradise, which we'll get into as well, I'm just worried about like the voice of Square Enix, the people who are there. Like, it's difficult. It's really difficult.
I think the main challenge that Square Enix has is that they are a big publisher, and to increase their output, they have to work with third parties. But if you look at, like, I guess the Western companies that you would compare it to, like Bethesda, they do everything in-house primarily. They'll work with third parties on specific things. And like they all outsource to, I mean, Insomniac outsource. Like they all have outsourcing studios that work on smaller aspects of the game.
Yeah.
But the primary bulk of the work is done internally.
Yeah.
And
like
it's okay.
Sony
like,
Santa Monica.
Like, you know, but that's the thing. Insomniac games have a much lower, they make much less money, I would imagine, than Square Enix do. Because they just, that's them. And Square Enix were in a position like them once upon a time. But I guess the frustrating thing that you're getting onto is that if you think about what is Square Enix actually developing themselves right now with limited support from anyone else? 7 Remake Part 2, Forspoken, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 14, Dragon Quest. I think Dragon Quest is typically done by third parties. I guess that's it, really. Like a couple of big games they're working on by themselves.
Yeah.
Is that really enough?
Who knows? But that's the thing. They're very private, so none of us will know unless we work there. No, we
will not. And then, so the other game that's coming out soon is The First Soldier. We've got the confirmation that that's going to be coming out in November, so next month. Triangle Strategy has ditched the project from the name, which we all kind of assumed was going to be the case. And that's coming out in March, and that's being worked on by the Bravely and Octopath teams.
But still such a funny name. Triangle Strategy.
Dungeon Encounters, Triangle Strategy, like... and then
is this all going to be like, is this all like a plan for Square Enix to just be like educational leaders in the games industry? We're going to get a game about math, and this game is going to be about triangles. We're going to have another game that's based around trapezoids. So there.
That'll be the sequel.
Yeah, trapezoid.
And then, Stranger of Paradise was announced that's coming out in March. So, from now until March, we've got Dungeon Encounters and Voice of Cards coming out this month. First Soldier coming out next month. Triangle Strategy is coming out in March. 2 weeks later, Stranger of Paradise. And then Forspoken is coming out in spring, which is any time between the 20th of March and the 21st of June. So I'd imagine that's going to be like an April-May release, so that it goes into the next financial year for Square Enix. But it means that there's like tons of stuff coming out, and there's going to be, there's probably more stuff like Dragon Quest X Offline is coming out in Japan in February. there's probably some other things that are coming out in Japan exclusively at the start of next year, and maybe some Western game. There's Guardians of the Galaxy coming out, isn't there?
Yeah, that game.
The game that's been over marketed and everyone's fed up with seeing it like every single opportunity, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just kind of like, it's just really massive at the moment, isn't it? Like, just thinking of all the stuff that Square Enix is like doing, and it just feels like it's, I don't know what the reputation of Square Enix now to the average consumer.
I don't know if anyone knows what they do.
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of like a mishmash of everything.
Yeah.
And like, if they just condensed it down and just released like 2 or 3 big budget games a year.
Yeah.
You've got the MMOs and you've got the mobile games to sustain it all.
Yeah. Like, why do they need to have their hand in like every single thing?
Because they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff to look forward to as fans of Square Enix Japan over the next 6 months, which is really exciting because we haven't had that for a while, it feels like. And like, they may not all appeal to everyone, but there should be something that appeals to someone in that arrangement of games. Anyway, so Stranger of Paradise, we all know what happened during the E3 reveal. It was not the best showing. But the demo was actually pretty good. And I had a decent time with the demo in comparison to the trailer. This time, they sorted the trailer out. And it was actually like a real point of frustration for me, because at the beginning part, like maybe 30 seconds of the trailer, it was like, words on the screen. They showed Garland walking towards the screen with like a CG cutscene. And then it pulled up the logo. And I was like, just thinking to myself, that would have been the perfect trailer for them to show during E3. It was like a teaser. It identified the concept as being about Final Fantasy 1. It's clearly Garland or Chaos. And Stranger of Paradise, boom. That would have got so many people speculating about what it was. And there would have been so much excitement about what it was. Much more than we got. But yeah, the rest of the trailer this time around was much better as well. I've heard that the Japanese trailer was different to the Western trailer. In R1, they cut out many of the mentions of chaos because they did not want to create another meme.
Obviously, they were offended by our meminess.
Yes. And it was revealed at the end of the trailer that Jack is called Garland. Jack Garland.
I met Damon.
Anyway.
It's so funny.
So yeah, as we had predicted, I think last episode, they have put out a second demo. Weirdly enough, the demo feels worse than the previous demo. And I don't know if that's just because my expectations have increased based on what I think they should have done in that time. Because it has been like 4 months. But like, there was really bad frame rate this time around. I feel as though in some way, and maybe the full game will be better structured, there was way too much choice. Like, they just gave you access to pretty much, like, I don't know, like 12, 13, 14 jobs, like off the bat, and we're like, do it. And I think that's generally one of my issues with this type of game, where they don't really give you a chance to explore and experiment with these, because you're trying to progress the game, right? So you want to progress the game by doing what you think is going to get you through that path the quickest.
Yeah.
Experimentation doesn't really become part of that unless experimentation is forced. And in the 7 remake, it was much a similar story. Like, everyone just is going to go with Cloud because that's the main character you get to play as. Let much less people play as Barrett and Tifa and Aerith because you're never forced to do so. So when you like, if you're given the choice, you're going to go with the character that you're more confident with. Because, like, I guess it was like Type 0 is probably the one that I think did it the best in terms of allowing you to experiment. But in the 7 remake, it's like, if you're playing as Cloud as your main and he goes down, like, I generally switched to Tifa and Barrett if I just wanted to use a move quickly.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because of any practical utility.
Well, Tifa, you did.
Only in my second playthrough.
Yeah, when you figured out why she was really good.
Because I did like the combat arena stuff where you have the opportunity to play as them in isolation, so you have to learn more about the mechanics and why you might want to use them.
Yeah.
But the game did a really bad job of like making me want to play as those other characters.
Yeah.
And I always feel as though that's one of the issues. Like I say, a game like Dynasty Warriors does it really well because they force you to play as certain characters during different missions, and that enables you to explore different play styles. Whereas in this, it's like, yeah, okay, you start off with a sword, fine. Most people have gravitated towards the great sword, which is like the swordsman or the knight or the warrior class.
Yeah.
It's the first weapon you start with. But then, like, almost immediately afterwards, I got access to the monk, I got access to the duelist, and then, you know, there's the mage. I can't even think. There's so many jobs that were possible, and then like it's a demo as well, so you don't want to spend too much time on it.
Yeah.
But so I focused. I was like, I did warrior last time. I'm going to try and do monk this time. It's a very different type of job, and then I was like, pugilist to start off with. Then I was trying to unlock monk, so I had to play a bit of the lancer, but I didn't spend too much time with any of them other than monk. So I got quite proficient with monk.
Yeah.
But there was nothing outside of like general curiosity, because they were like, oh, you should like explore, or you should try and find a weapon that suits your playstyle. It's like, well, you know, I'm making decent progress with this one, so why do I want to try another one?
Yeah.
You may end up doing much better with a different playstyle, but how would you know unless you actively want to try it?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like Type 0, you kind of got forced to if you wanted to complete the mission, because once a character died, there was no possibility for getting them back. And maybe they could do something similar in this. It's way too late, but like they could have done something similar where, like, if you jobs had limit or like timers or something, like, so if you exhausted a job, you have to go to another one. I don't know, like just something to outside of just a random tutorial that lasts for like a minute that teaches you the bare minimum about how to use that class.
Yeah,
you're not going to learn how to like get proficient with the job in a 1 minute tutorial.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely not.
It's just like a bit overwhelming, and I hope the main game is more structured and gives you a chance to experiment with these different jobs, like force you to use these job classes on certain missions. Like you have to go. It's a red mage only mission. You can only use that job on this.
Yeah,
just to make people aware of the different possibilities and the different pros and cons of each of the jobs.
But again, I guess that's the other issue, is the fact that they don't want people to just be like, oh, this game stinks because they just didn't let me play what I wanted to play.
It's kind of my biggest gripe about the Souls games actually as well, because I was gravitated towards just using a big sword.
Yeah.
But like the mages are incredibly powerful, but like
yeah, I just use mages all the time.
I never understood how to use them.
Yeah.
Really. And it's the same in Stranger of Paradise. Like the black mage, I just don't get it. I don't get it. But because I'm not forced to understand or learn, it could end up being a really easy way to play through the game.
Yeah.
But like you kind of have to go out of you got to go online. I know, it's just like really entitled.
I basically was forced to out of fear for the fire lurker. That is why I became a mage in.
But you didn't in Bloodborne.
Demon Souls. I didn't get far enough in Bloodborne. I got past like the first sort of big like world bit, and it just disturbed me, so I didn't carry on. But no, that's a story for another time. But yeah, no, like that's the only reason why I used mage in that game. But no, I do agree. I think the jobs were also just better in Type 0 because like the AI was really helpful. Like if you had a team of 3, you had Deuce who would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to play. It was Deuce, wasn't it? Who was just, I'm just going to play my flute and your enemies are just going to die and it's great. Woohoo. You didn't have to worry about her. Like you didn't have to really.
The AI was a lot better. In this demo, and they added some commands that you can kind of give them to use their abilities on a more regular basis. But I think in general, just I don't know, there was just something that just didn't feel as polished this time around. Like I said, the frame rate was not that great. I don't know, the visuals didn't look. if you look at them comparatively, they probably are better now.
Mm.
But maybe it's because I'd already done the level, because it was the exact same level again this time in the demo, which I think was a mistake. I don't think they should have included the Chaos Shrine again in this one. They should have just done the Refin, whatever it was called.
Yeah, the new place.
The new place only, or added 2 new locations. I don't know. I think doing...
Do you think it was because of the lighting? Do you think that might have hurt it a bit?
I don't know, but I don't know, just... Yeah, I feel as though, like, because I was not doing the Chaos Shrine for the first time, I kind of just rushed through it, because I was like, well, I know what's going to happen. I've been here, I've done this.
Why should I do it again?
You know, I just kind of wanted to get through it so I could, because that's the thing, they made you play through the Chaos Shrine and complete the Chaos Shrine before you could do the new level.
Yeah, which is just silly. They should have just had it like, you know, this is the Chaos Shrine again. Would you like to continue with this, or do you want to continue with the new section of the demo? And
the new level, which was kind of inspired by 13, which throws up a whole load of questions about what other levels are going to be, and whether they're going to be like Final Fantasy 7 or 8 and 9 and 10 levels in there. I just didn't really like the structure of it that much. I think the visual style didn't really work. I mean, like, the visual style of Stranger in Paradise in general is kind of weird. Like, the graphics aren't that great for what you'd expect from a PS5 game. And I know it's cross-gen, which kind of hampers it. But, like, it just doesn't... It doesn't look that great. It doesn't perform that great. And yeah, like the lighting and everything in the Refin level was not particularly good. I don't know. There's just something about the game that just doesn't look polished.
Yeah.
And the worrying thing for me is that, like, you know, I filled out the survey, and to be honest, I was less impressed by this demo than the previous one. So I gave more critical feedback, because I think it should be a better, like, it's got their branding on it. It's being overseen by Nomura, who is the ultimate perfectionist, apparently. I can't understand how they'll be happy with it. And like, when you look at the team that's developing it, Team Ninja, everyone is looking at the Neo comparisons, because Neo is a game that plays incredibly well. And like, it's not like the best looking game ever, but it's not terrible. It's like it's up there. Like it's not going to be winning awards, but it's like a really solid looking game. It's got really good atmosphere, and it doesn't feel like it's made by that team. It feels like it's made by more heavily the Dissidia NT team, which is not the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
and I don't know. They've said that it's going to be coming on the 18th of March. It would not surprise me if the game is delayed. Because it's giving them only like 5 months to turn this game around. Otherwise, it's going to be releasing, and I can see it getting reviews in the 60 to 80% range, but it'll be like low 70s as opposed to high 70s.
Yeah, which is a shame. Like, it's not what they need right now. Like, it's just, they've had so many like lackluster releases. Like, when is it going to be the last one? When is it going to be the one that really makes them wake up? Yeah, this game
needed to release at the same standard as the 7 remake. And the fact that it's not going to be is a shame.
Like, people are already, you know, because of how... I'm guessing probably partially because of how badly the Avengers game like did initially, is the reason why nobody's really that interested in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you know, why should we trust you with this?
Yeah, I mean, Avengers did really badly. Outriders has not done particularly great either. Square Enix, they're kind of...
They must see that their reputation is going into the crapper because of the quality of the games.
And that's why, honestly, and I know it's bad because we've been with the franchise for so long, and you know, we're not 14 players, so I don't necessarily have that in the back of my mind. I don't know what to expect out of 16 at this point.
Yeah.
Like 7 Remake 2, I'm kind of okay with. Still not 100% confident based on how the story's going to go. But from a gameplay perspective, I'm like pretty happy with how that's going.
Yeah.
16, I have no clue what kind of game we're going to get whatsoever. Yeah. And I'm not going to go in, I'm not blindly just thinking it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, I would have like had that complete confidence in them. But yeah, like their track record at the moment is more duds.
Yeah.
Than like they're releasing games, and it obviously they're not striving for it, but like their games are like they're middling, they're average.
Yeah. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen?
Because yeah, like Outriders is a 73 on OpenCritic. Avengers was a 68. And like those are two like big games for them.
Yeah.
That just didn't. I mean, Life is Strange.
I mean, they even had like a Discord thing for Outriders, didn't they?
I mean, most things have Discords these days.
They wanted it to be.
But you look
huge.
at like Tales of Arise is an 88 on OpenCritic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same score as 7 Remake got. And it's like you just don't. I don't know. It's just I don't know what to expect from them anymore. They don't have my like just
undying
like
support.
They've got obviously like got support, but like I don't care about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not going to pick it out just because it's made by them, because I don't have confidence that it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's
going to be okay.
Yeah,
probably, maybe
mildly.
And yeah, that's kind of where it's at with Stranger in Paradise. Like I don't. Yeah. Based on these two demos, or the last demo, the one that has just come out, I have no idea what the final game is going to be like.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. Because like the story segments are just so all over the place. I mean, everyone must have seen the new meme scene now where Jack is like listening to this new character called Neon, and he just tells her that she's talking BS, and then just gets Bluetooth headphones from somewhere and starts listening to some music and just walks off. Like, I'm sure in the grand scheme of the story, it's going to make sense.
Maybe.
But for a demo where you don't know what's going on, it's just like, what is even going on? Like, this doesn't make, like, it's so odd.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, like the writing just doesn't seem up to par to where it should be.
You look at like the 7 Remake, they did the demo for the Guard Scorpion, like up until that point. That's a solid demo. This whole process just seems like they don't really know what they're doing.
But like even still, even with that in mind, like Final Fantasy 7 Remake's writing still felt a bit weird to me. Like it still was a bit weird. It wasn't nearly this sort of weird, not nearly as weird as Strangers in Paradise, but it's the fact that and it kind of is in Forspoken as well, this like really big necessity that they somehow feel to be edgy. Like it's like this weird thing where they just were suddenly like Steve Buscemi in that one thing where it's just like, what's happening, kids, and like that type of thing. It just feels forced, and I wonder if it is partially just because of how removed they are from how people actually interact with each other. Like, do they actually know how to interact with human beings, these writers, or what people actually sound like on a day-to-day basis? Don't know. But yeah, I am sick of the swearing. Like, I hate to be a prude, but I don't. If it doesn't add anything to what somebody is saying, just don't use it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Stranger of Paradise, kind of the steps they're taking, just it cements that, yeah, they're not confident in what they're doing. They've released 2 demos in the space of 4 months. They're asking for feedback on both of them.
Yeah.
And like, you know, for a kind of a mobile game, fine, whatever. But like Babylon's Fall is going through the same process. It's like, I think they're doing like 4 betas to try and get the game into a state where it's playable. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, what are they going to do with Stranger in Paradise if like all the feedback comes back as like super negative? Because it wasn't that positive after the last one. Yeah. They've tried to make improvements, and if their feedback is like the same or worse, like are they just going to go like, yeah, you know, well, let's just release a okay game?
Like who are they even like play testing this on? Is it just us? Like,
who knows?
But anyways.
Yeah, anyways. So Stranger of Paradise, I'm still curious about it. I will probably play it, but it's not like a must buy.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it because I'm curious. I'm a fan of the genre and it's a Final Fantasy game in that genre. But like, yeah, it has not left the best impression.
Yeah.
And I'm now, I think after the first demo, if they hadn't done another demo,
you would have been okay.
Yeah, I would have probably been okay. I would have been.
But then you would have been lulled into a false sense of security, and then played the game, and then got to that scene and been like, "What the hell is going on?"
But that's the thing, right? That scene may make more sense in the full game because it will be after loads of story stuff that explains why it's happening.
Explains why he is so fed up with this person.
But like, just everything was out of context, and like the demo has made me less confident about whether I'm going to like the final product, which is not
not what you want out of a demo.
No,
not what you want after a demo.
But anyway,
yes,
we'll see what happens in the next couple of months, whether or not they are able to turn it around. And they got 5 months really, because it's going to be coming out in 6 months. So you got the gold segment. It's day one patch probably. So we'll see what happens. We will see. But so I think that's pretty much it, Lauren.
Well, I hope you all are doing well.
Well. The next episode of Final Fantasy Union is scheduled to come out on the 19th of October. Be sure to check out all of our previous episodes on FinalFantasyUnion.com, and maybe by then there will actually be a new website.
And maybe by then, Lauren and Daryl will be happy with life.
We're unhappy with life?
At Square Enix.
I'm mixed at them.
Maybe you won't have a complicated relationship with Square Enix.
I don't think they can solve that in 2 weeks.
You never know. They did seem to sully your opinion of Strangers of Paradise within a month.
That's true.
So they are capable of anything.
Well, I think Dungeon Encounters will be out by the next episode, so maybe I would have played that and I would have got super excited about everything.
Daryl's going to be down with the math.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, everyone. If you enjoy what we do, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/FFKHUnion. But for now, it's time for us to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
And I'm Daryl saying goodbye. This has been a FinalFantasyUnion.com production.